All right. It looks like we're live. All right, just going to give me a second here to reconfig my screen so I can see the chat. All right. What's up, Hassan from Norway? Gabriel R. Yo, what's up? Okay. Sweet. Cut to cut. Hello. Okay. Live it is. How's everyone doing on this fine Friday? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Jason Levine, and I don't know exactly how long this is going to take. We've got 50 minutes or so, but I wanted to take you through a couple of the new features in Adobe Audition CC 2018, updated just last week. And if you haven't already updated, you're going to want to, because there's a couple of very exciting new features in Audition, specifically, as the title suggests, automatic audio ducking. So you're working in Premiere, you've got dialogue and you've got music, and you want the music to automatically attenuate or drop the volume whenever the dialogue is speaking, or you have any kind of something where you're basically wanting to drop one audio file against another. Traditionally, if in Premiere, you would have done this probably with just keyframing and enveloping and drawing out the little volume envelopes. You could do it in Audition more traditionally using an actual sidechain compressor to do the ducking. But now we actually have a function inside of Essential Sound that's going to make this extremely easy and powerful. Along the way, I'm going to show you a couple of the new options that we also have in terms of crossfading in Audition's multitrack, and then also just talk a little bit about some of the new controller support that we have, for which I actually have a controller here with me. What's up, Ed? From Qatar, VJ, Chris, Alessio, Ricardo, Brian, Ayob, Damien. Great to have all of you with us today. Marcin from Poland. Thank you very much. Okay. You're in India. Good night. Okay. Well, this will be available for replay immediately after we finish here, right here on the Creative Cloud YouTube channel. So if you can't catch it all right now, you'll be able to watch it anytime thereafter. All right, so let's get started. Let's go ahead and bounce into Adobe Audition CC 2018. And you may have seen this footage before. We've been using it for a while. This is just kind of a great real-world example of when we need ducking. So here we have a scene from a film called See You Around. It was directed by Oren Brimmer. And this is actually the rough, unmixed audio edit of this one particular bar scene where we've got 3 different characters in the bar. And all of that is denoted in green here. Now, interestingly, in the Essential Sound, if you haven't used Essential Sound before, the way that this works is you basically identify the type of audio that you're working with, and then Essential Sound offers up all of the effects and filters that you would commonly use to process that type of audio based on the selected type. Now, one cool thing that I don't get to show a lot, but once you define certain types, for instance, all of these green clips that I'm circling right here, these are all dialogue. Notice that the dialogue button inside of Essential Sound is actually illuminated. When I click on this, it now automatically highlights all of the dialogue clips for me so that I can either work on them globally or independently, but showcasing to me all of the stuff that's already been tagged as dialogue. Similarly, if I were to tag ambience, because this is an actual scene from an actual film, we don't typically use the ambient sound if we're recording in a bar. It's usually dead quiet, except for, electrical noise and someone yelling action and cut or whatever. All of the sound of the bar and people and drinks and chatter, that's all put back in. So we denoted all these particular clips as ambience, right? And then it serves up a series of different effects and things that we would typically use to process ambience. And then, of course, we have music, which we're going to do as well, and we're going to make use of. All right? Brian, Audition is the most intimidating UI ever, just from your perspective. Brian, you're not the first to say that. And, I'm thinking, well, we're going to have a new series on the Creative Cloud Facebook page. Today we started a new series called How to Make Good Videos Great. It's based around motion graphics templates and After Effects workflows. 3 weeks of that. 4 weeks from now, I'm going to be starting an Adobe Audition course for about 3 weeks. And maybe I'll hit some of the extreme fundamentals. Now, by the way, if you're trying to learn Audition, I've got an Audio 101 series, which you can find on my YouTube channel. youtube.com/JasonLevineVideo. I highly recommend checking those out. But yeah, we are trying to simplify things. There's a lot of stuff going on, and you can make it really sort of clean and easier, but I hear you, and we're trying to make that a little bit better and a little bit more intuitive. Alexandre, Jung, Steven, very nice to see you. Yeah, Brian, definitely check those out. All right, very cool. Evil Cerise, hey man, what's up? You're very kind. Yes, Evil was there the whole time while I was making all of those and broadcasting them live on Twitch. Okay, so let's talk about auto ducking. So what do we have here? We've got dialogue, we've got music, and we want the music to automatically duck against the dialogue rather than drawing all the little keyframes to kind of duck it manually. So let's take a quick listen here and see what we've got. Now, actually, before I even do anything, one of the things that I'll typically do with my dialogue is use this function up here called Auto Match Loudness. And what this does is based on, oh, and I've already done it, based on the standard that you can set in Essential Sound. And by the way, you do that by going into the master template view that you have here. Now, this function is not yet available in Premiere. This function is only currently available in Audition. You can automatically match all of your dialogue clips to a specific target loudness. I can't tell you how essential this is, because what this will do is it'll make all of your various voices, all of your characters, the same loudness, the same sort of average level before you even begin mixing, right? So this kind of gives you a starting point where everything is kind of uniform and kind of the same. You can do your EQ, compression, all those other things that we do to dialogue after, but this gets everybody just kind of in the same range, because not everyone speaks at the same loudness, the same sort of average volume, especially if you're doing dialogue replacement or you've got, boom ambient mics on location like these here. Everyone's going to have, it'll be slightly different. So let's first just take a listen to what we have right now and hear what this sounds like, and then I'll show you the ducking process. So here it is raw, just with all the dialogue auto matched. Here we go.
Hi. I'd like to hear that, please.
Okay.
Great. I'd like an elderberry.
Oh, actually, we don't have that.
I've been here before, and I've definitely had it here, so you have it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, the dialogue is audible, but again, that music is it's too loud. And that's because we're not riding the fader, so to speak. This is what you want to do. You want the music to kind of be ducking, or if not moving constantly, at least as the scene begins and he's, looking away, the music should be full volume. But as he approaches and begins to speak, it should duck down, all right? And this is typically something that, especially on the Premiere side, you would have done manually. But now you can do it in Essential Sound and Audition automatically, and it's pretty damned impressive. By the way, Miriam, yes, I know. I heard some comments today on Facebook on the Creative Cloud channel this morning that they prefer it to be on Behance and YouTube. So if for no other reason, that you get full 1080p on Behance and YouTube, and Facebook is still restricted to 720, but I'm sure that'll change eventually. Anyway, okay, so now you can see I've got down below, if I solo this, here's our music track. All right, so all I have to do is simply select the music track, and let me go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. All right. And I'm going to come over to Essential Sound, and I'm going to click on Music. And when I do that, now it has tagged that as the music audio type. Hello, Kolade from Nigeria. So now we've got a couple of options. Again, we've got our loudness auto matching. Now, I just want to point out again, this is so useful because if you've got multiple musical clips in your video, in your production, which you will, surely, depending upon scene and mood and everything else, again, not all of those audio clips are going to be the same average listening level, the same average loudness. We're not talking about peaks anymore. Peak is doesn't matter because we compress and limit everything before it's finalized anyway. But we're talking about that average level so that everything's kind of uniform and present. If you've got something like this, which is like alternative rock, and then you mix that with like a Kanye track or something, undoubtedly, the Kanye track is just going to be louder. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be bassier. It's going to be heavier. So again, to kind of homogenize those two, to bring them about the same level, to start mixing, manually is a drag. Auto match will do it automatically. Now, what we're looking for here is the new ducking option. So I'm going to select our music clip, and I'm going to enable Zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to enable the ducking function. Now, when I do that, what it's going to do, you'll see here, it's now measuring RMS curves for auto ducking. So it's analyzing and it's looking at all of these dialogue clips over here. And what it's basically doing is it's figuring out where it needs to duck that music. Now you can see you've got a sensitivity setting here, a reduction setting, and a fade. And it's basically how long it takes to kick in once it starts to duck, and then how long it takes to recover. So 800 milliseconds, it's almost a second. That's pretty slow. So we're probably going to speed that up, and we're probably going to adjust the sensitivity. Now what I want you to pay attention to here is if you take a look at the waveform, you'll actually see this dotted line represents kind of its own little keyframed volume envelope that it's drawing against the dialogue that's spoken in the scene. And that actually might be pretty good. Now you'll also notice up at the top here that we've got a couple of different options. Now it automatically detected that we were going to be ducking against dialogue, and I think that's the default. Notice you can also duck against music, you can duck against sound effects, you can duck against anything that's tagged as ambience, or you can duck against clips that don't have an assigned audio type. Now that is probably your best friend right there, because if you're, you could use this for music, for music mixing. You can use this for a number of different things. Or maybe you're coming from Avid or from FCP or some other NLE. You're not going to have everything tagged, right? So this way you can set it to, hey, it's not tagged, just duck against everything that's in the timeline or everything that's playing, not soloed or whatever. And then you can use this with anything via OMF, via AF, whatever it is, XML. So that's really, really useful. And what that does is it opens up this auto ducking feature to really any project that you're working on, old or new. So let's just let's take a listen to what the defaults did. I think 18 dB. I am going to adjust that fade though. That's too slow. So let's do like a quarter of a second, 250 milliseconds. All right, and let's take a listen and hear what we've got so far. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Take this off solo. Here we go.
Hi. Yeah. Hi.
Okay, now that's very odd. I don't know exactly why it just did that. Okay, so I'm going to readjust the sensitivity here. By the way, I just saw that it redrew itself. And that's very interesting. By the way, I'm going to mention I haven't used this since the earlier beta, so it seems to be doing some different stuff. Notice, though, as I'm dragging the sensitivity, it's constantly redrawing that curve. So this is kind of interesting. And let's do not quite as much reduction. Let's do about 12. All right. Yeah, it's wanting to drop it at the beginning there. All right. I'm just going to temporarily mute these. Let's take a listen now.
Hi. Yeah. Hi. I'd like to get a drink, please.
Okay.
Great. I'd like an elderberry liqueur.
Oh, actually, we don't have that.
I've been here before, and I've definitely had it here, so you have it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, strangely, again, why in that one moment it kind of raised back up, that's sort of odd too. So again, we're going to want to play with our sensitivity here, but right away you can hear that certainly for the lion's share of the dialogue, and there we go, I increased the sensitivity up a little bit. That looks a little bit better. Let's go to the end of this dialogue section and listen to this bit here.
5 years, so let me just check on that for you.
Thank you.
And there's like ambient noise in there.
Yeah, no, we don't have it.
Okay, I'll take a shot of Fireball.
Okay. So it's a bit more sensitive than I'd probably like it right now. But again, automatically now it's drawing that waveform, and this is not performing as lovely as I'd like it to. But I think our fade is probably okay. Now let's just try and see what would happen if we increase that fade time a little bit more. All right, I think it's just going to be too slow, but let's see.
Check on that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we don't have it.
Yeah, and that attenuation level is okay at around 11 dB. So auto ducking, really simple. That's it. You've got these 3 settings here, and it's just going to do its thing. Now let me try this on another video as well. This is one I haven't tried on before. use this video a couple times. And in fact, what I'm going to do real quickly, I'm going to cut out the interviewer because I don't care about the questions. These aren't actually supposed to be in the interview. So let's go ahead and take these bits out here because you can see the interviewer is significantly louder than the actual speaker. So let's go ahead and do that. Take that out. That should be fine.
My name's Rod Wyndham. I'm the currently the Managing Director of Sidechain.
Okay. So again, I'm going to select our dialogue here. We're going to tell Essential Sound that is dialogue. I'm going to select our music. Let's go ahead and just shrink this up while I'm at it and go ahead and tell it this is music. Turn on ducking. It'll start analyzing. It happened very quickly there. All right. Once again, our sensitivity, these are the defaults. Let's take a listen and see what this did.
My name's Rod Wyndham. I'm currently the Managing Director of Sabi, and I've been fortunate to be working here for 13 years. It's a long time.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, you can see that auto match for 800. It's a little too much. Drop that.
Well, being an avid photographer myself, we're blessed with wildlife that is habituated to Land Rovers and to game beauty. So you tend to get these really...
That was pretty nice.
Well, being an avid photographer myself, we're blessed with wildlife that is habituated to Land Rovers and to game beauty. So you tend to get these really close up
And you notice how I was able to manipulate the reduction and the fade real time as it was playing. That's actually another thing in this new release, by the way, you'll see as I'm playing this now, is that you can actually move clips around and reassemble things while it's playing, and playback never stops. So this is not unlike the uninterrupted playback feature in Premiere, now brought to Audition. So kind of cool. Let's see. Hey, TV from Brazil. Can you manually redraw a part of the auto curve? So you can't redraw a part of the auto curve, but of course you can manually redraw the actual volume here itself, just like that. So if at any point you actually wanted to sort of override what it's doing, you still have control over that. I'm thinking in this other session, it could also be that I auto-matched, and it sounds like there's a lot of, some of these files are just background noise that may have gotten tagged as dialogue. Someone was just asking in the last stream, how do you keep track of all your demo files? Well, it's not easy. So I don't know why this one didn't work quite as brilliantly as I would have liked, but you get the idea, and you should try this. Now, having said that, I'm always the first to say, it's auto, but that doesn't mean it's going to do everything every time. And depending upon what it's ducking against, it may be a little tricky. Having said that, of course, you can have multiple things being ducked. In other words, you can use this multiple times. It's not only on a single music clip or like a single track in this case. So you have a lot of flexibility when implementing auto ducking. Yeah, Brian, it actually comes down before he starts talking. Cool. Yes, because what it's doing is it's actually detecting, again, the threshold ahead of time. It's a look ahead. In fact, I even think it says here, yeah, so it actually says in the tooltip of the fade, right, sets a look ahead time that defines how long the ducking starts before the actual signal against to duck. So it's actually looking ahead, and then it sees that there's signal, and it begins to attenuate. 344, that one sounded pretty natural, somewhat musical. Again, a default of 800. I mean, that's almost a second, so that's really just a bit too long. The longest it goes, yeah, is around 2,000 milliseconds, so 2 seconds. I mean, you'll hardly ever need something like that, just in terms of dialogue ducking. Maybe if you're trying to do something else, there might be an application for that. But I think you get the idea. So again, really simple to implement. You select the clip, you denote it as music, you enable ducking, you tell it what you're ducking against, and you set your sensitivity, the amount of reduction, and your fade, and that's it. Now, you can also, just to reiterate here, if you want to do this in the more traditional way, for any of my audio engineers who are in the audience right now. Hey, what's up, Aunt Pruitt? Yeah, phone mics were used by them. Yeah, I hear that. So, does assigning a type of audio Does it assign the master clip or just the clip? No. So it'll assign if, in other words, if you've cut this into several different pieces, it's clip by clip. Yeah, so it's not master based. Now, if you assign it to an entire clip and then cut it up into pieces, all the pieces that you cut will already be assigned as dialogue. But like this was all from the same thing. I can individually assign this as dialogue. This one would not be tagged. I'd have to tag them separately because I cut it apart. Again, had I said it was dialogue and then cut it into pieces, everything is denoted. So that's a great question. That's a good sort of workflow question as well. But just in terms of manual ducking, so just to show you that real quickly here, you obviously have this function via using what's called a sidechain in Audition. So here, what we would actually do is we would add something like, let's go into our mixer on track 2. By the way, I should probably name these. Those music. Call this dialogue. And on our music track, we're going to add something like one of our compressors. Now, we have our dynamics processor, which is super good sounding, a little hard to use. It's better now because we now have gain reduction metering as well as an actual visual display of what's happening to your signal here. So that's some pretty somewhat aggressive sounding compression on there from something that's already fairly compressed, but that'll work as far as ducking goes. From here, you can set this as a sidechain input, and then you'll actually see, if you can see the tooltip up there, set sidechain input. And then you've got your channel map editor, so you can tell it sort of where the effects inputs are coming from, where the output should go. Really simple. I don't even know. Oh, we do have some presets in there. Okay. It's really simple. You can use this with third-party effects, so any VSTs or AU effects that allow for sidechaining, specifically compressors, EQs, can be used in this same way. So you do that, and then once you assign the compressor limiter to the music track, that's going to be used to duck it. Then you're going to go over to your dialogue, and under your sends, your effect sends here, this is where you enable the sidechain. So I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to say sidechain the dynamics processor, and then you're going to use the volume control here to basically adjust how much it's attenuating when the dialogue kicks in, right? Real easily. So again, if we were to play this back and unmute this.
Well, being an avid photographer myself, we're blessed with wildlife that is habituated to Land Rovers and to game.
Okay, so again, same idea, just a bit more manual in this case, but this is how you would have done it more traditionally in Audition prior to auto ducking coming to Essential Sound. Okay, so a little bit on auto ducking there. Now, I mentioned before just some things with crossfades, so I want to just show you this real quickly. Let's come up to a couple clips here that we can modify. Glance over at the chat. The good monitors are right. Yeah, good monitors are essential for sure. And you know, people ask this all the time, and I've said it in the audio one-on-ones and stuff. I mean, while I would never say to someone it's a great workflow to mix in headphones, but getting a good set of kind of reference cans is also, in lieu of having good speakers, which are more expensive, or a bad listening environment, which is also harder to account for sometimes. Having a good set of kind of reference headphones can be very valuable. And the ones that I use and that are kind of studio standards, they're inexpensive and they just kind of work, are these, which are the Sony 7506. Now let's go full screen on these. Shown these a million times. Oh, wait, sorry. Depth of field there. There we go. That's shooting at f3.5. So Sony 7506, like I said, industry standard. They're about $100. Now, they're not what we call completely flat. They definitely have a color to them. But once you learn that color, and it's not too far from where it ought to be, the point is you can actually do some pretty good mixing in these things. A couple kinds of cans that I don't recommend mixing in are things like Beats. Not that Beats aren't good, it's just that they're automatically by design enhancing the bass response. So you might be mixing something and you're like, oh yeah, it's super bassy, super thick, super pumping. And then you go to listen to it on like, some other system, some other workstation or a television or whatever, and it's thin. Well, because you were hearing so much bass, you were probably not boosting as much as you may have needed. You play it on a regular system, now it doesn't sound good anymore. So again, can you learn what beats sound like? Yes, but it's harder because by design they're amplifying or accentuating bass frequency. So something like these 7506s by Sony, they're just kind of a standard, and they do a pretty good job. Okay, so crossfades. So we've done a lot of stuff in here to make crossfading easier, and also just to kind of give you more flexibility with what you can do when crossfading clips. So let me just expand this a little bit here and zoom in a little as well. Oh, how's that doing? There we go. Okay. So here we have our non-destructive crossfades, okay? And you've probably seen these before. Again, these have been in Audition for quite some time. Now, when you hover over the crossfade handle, you'll see another tooltip. And you can see up here, now when you hold down Alt, it'll apply a symmetrical fade. If you hold down Command, it'll change the fade shape. And if you hold down Shift, this is going to allow you to either preserve a fade duration by going in one direction up or down, or the shape of the curve by going left or right. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the modifiers. So holding down Alt or Option, okay, that's going to give you symmetrical fade, okay? Not freeform, right? So this is kind of the problem sometimes with applying crossfades, is that it gets sort of challenging. Once you get the fade curve right, sometimes things move and it gets out of whack real quickly. So holding down Alt or Option, sorry, I keep bringing that one back over here, is going to give you a nice symmetrical fade, okay? Now again, if we come over here, hold down Command to change the fade shape. Oops. Okay, and you can see here how we can get kind of from sinusoidal to linear very quickly. So here's linear without Command being held. Hold down Command, sinusoidal. Okay, so a nice keyboard modifier to do that. Typically, are you going to use, I would recommend sine-based crossfades. They're just going to be smoother. Again, let go of Command, you can see linear. Hold down Command, or in this case, what is it? Control on the PC. And it'll give you the sinusoidal ones. Now, the one that I've actually used the most, and I never remember these, I have to constantly look back at what they are because I'm terrible with keyboard shortcuts, is the Shift key. So this is what I was saying before. So you get your fade curve just right, but you need to extend the curve. You need to make it a little bit longer. You don't want to change the fade curve at all. You like how it's, you just need to extend it. So when you hold down Shift now, and I have to look at this. So yeah, so if you go left or right, notice it doesn't change the curve, it's just allowing you to change the duration. I'm moving my mouse left or right. If I go up or down, it doesn't change the curve at all, right? That's awesome. Similarly, if I hold down Shift and I go up or down, now I can change the curve, but if I go left or right, it doesn't change the duration. So this is great because, again, you might get the duration of the crossfade just right, but the curve isn't right, like it isn't sounding good. So this is an opportunity for you to sort of come in here and say, okay, yeah, you know what? I need to modify that curve, but I want to keep it exactly the same length. That's an awesome way to do it. All right, just like that. Okay. So some new options there with regard to crossfades. Now something else which you may have just noticed as I was kind of moving clips around over here, well, let me zoom back out, is that we now also allow you to, it'll always display overlapping clips. So it used to be, if you saw what I just did there, so before, like if I had this clip, let's just say that this extended, yeah, it goes sort of the whole duration, doesn't it? Yeah, here, I'm gonna move this around. So let's just say before, if I took this green clip right here, and I'm gonna color this differently, by the way, just to make this easier for you to see. If I took a clip and placed it over top of these two, all right, forget the crossfades for just a moment, that's fine. But the second that I clicked on one of these adjacent clips, that orange clip would have fallen behind. And that was by design for some time. The problem is, now you always had a way to bring it to the front, bring clip to front, but via a right-click menu, control click. Problem is that, and I'm guilty of this, you'd forget that that was even there. And your files, your project files would get bigger and larger because you've got all these additional files that are living in your multitrack that you're not even seeing. You don't even know where it's coming from. I remember doing a mix a year ago, and I kept hearing this weird something, like this weird noise. And where is this coming from? I turned off all the effects. I removed all the effects. I did all this nonsense, only to find that there was a clip behind one clip behind something somewhere. It was like an overdub take, and I was talking, and then it was like a false start, and I somehow left it in there, driving me crazy for days. So that doesn't happen anymore. Now it'll always display clips over top of one another. It'll never fall behind. You can send it behind things if you want to, but it won't do that by default, which is really nice. Okay. Now, just one more thing before we get to automation here. Hey, Skyhawk, what's up? Yeah, and 7506s. You can't lose. They're just a standard, and they're so good. And like there are definitely better headphones. There's Sennheiser and AKG. I'm trying to think of the other ones that I have that are my actual reference ones. They're not Bang & Olufsen. Brain death. What is it? Grado. Thank you. Very expensive. These kind of do it. Like, they do it. And the best thing to do, to be honest, is get an album that you know, listen to it many times, get to understand what it sounds like in those headphones. Typically, I would say use a reference album, something like Steely Dan Asia or Steely Dan Gaucho. These are two kind of industry standards for testing speaker systems and headphones, for clarity, for pop, for punch, for brightness. Another one is, curiously, Deep Purple's Made in Japan live album. One of the best, most well-recorded live albums ever, back from '72, but very good stereo positioning. Again, kick drum, snare drum, like good placement, good attack. It's really good for referencing. There's many others, but get something learn the sound, and then try a mix and see if you can kind of mimic that in that same way. And I think you'll find you'll accelerate pretty quickly. Okay. Yes. New options in video. So you'll notice now in Audition that we now have Timecode Overlay, including some new options there. So first and foremost, you can adjust background opacity on that black bar. You can adjust the size, thank goodness, because that's way too big. That doesn't look like the original font that was in there, but I guess that's what it is now. You can, of course, move the position of the time code. Right. This is perfect if you're using Audition now for ADR, which, by the way, I'll show you in a second. We also have new punch-in workflows. You've also got the ability to reference either session time code or the actual time code of the media itself. This is very useful, in particular, again, for ADR. Also, if you're using broadcast wave files that have stamped time code, and you have the option in Audition to insert those clips at their time code locations in the sequence, makes even more sense to reference the actual media time code as opposed to the session time code. So you've got a couple of cool options there with regard to displaying time code here. And then what I wanted to show you was our new control surface support. No, don't come in here. Streaming, close the door. Okay. Previously, we have had Yukon, Mackie Control, and you can see PreSonus fader port. That's just, I added the driver to that. What we're offering now in this latest release is Mackie HUI control, which is the most common control surface protocol for any and all devices out there. Pretty much any controller that you'll find now supports Mackie HUI, if nothing else. Again, now all the Avid ones usually have like a HUI emulation, but we natively support Yukon if you've got one of the Avid artist mixing series. So I just thought I would kind of show you here just really quickly kind of how this works. And it's, it's nothing you've never seen before, but it's kind of fun. So let me go ahead and pull up a music session. Take a moment to look here. Please, can we export to media encoder for multi-session with video? Yes, you can. TVJPZ. what? TV JPZ. Sorry, I lost my ability to speak there. If you simply export with Adobe Media Encoder, you can do just that. You can finish with video. You don't have to go back to Premiere. If you're using any of, if you're sending stuff over from Premiere via dynamic link, and you have any of our smart rendered codecs, it won't even re-render the video. This is really the most ideal way to do this now, especially if you're going to be using Audition as a finishing solution for your audio. Export directly with Media Encoder is awesome. So yeah, you can absolutely do that. What other options do you have for linking Audition to other DAWs like PreSonus Studio One, for example, Skyhawk77? Unfortunately, today you don't really have any. We still don't support MIDI. We don't have MIDI timecode. We don't have Rewire yet now. So there is no way to really live link things. Now, after the fact, of course, Audition supports OMF, XML. You can open up virtually any file type. You can export to virtually any and all file types out there, including the Dolby AAC and AAC, not AAC, Dolby Digital and Dolby Digital Plus. DD and DDP formats are native to Audition. But yeah, at present we don't have MIDI timecode, we don't have Rewire, so there's no way to kind of link things together, and we don't yet support VSTIs. So hopefully we'll see that in a rev. I can tell you I've been asking that for some time. Warren, do I need an on-air sign? Yes, they know. They just weren't listening. Jonathan, yeah, Sennheisers are great and definitely flat. I'm trying to think what I have a pair in the back room as well. So Zwadi, will I sing for you today? We'll have to see. Okay. All right. So fader automation. So here we go. I've got my session pulled up here. So this is, again, I think this is, I was doing a bit of a remix on one of my children's songs, which will be available on vinyl at the beginning of next year in full mixes. I've got a couple different variations of some of my kids' music. And this is one called The Toot Monster. And these are some background vocals here. Okay. Now, if we take a look, I'm going to turn on my other camera right here. So here we are. This is the PreSonus Fader Port 8 production controller. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. 8 motorized faders, which is why I happen to like this one. You'll notice that you've got, again, you have all of your scrub controls. So I can scrub through all of this and rewind. By the way, you'll notice some of the faders moving there because these are motorized. So when there's movement or automation recorded, the faders will move accordingly. I can also use the wheel here to kind of scroll around in the session. Oh, and I have a selection made there. That's why it didn't play back from where I just started. And all of these buttons are assignable. Obviously, all of your mutes and solos and everything. If you look up here, now you won't be able to see this on the camera, but this actually gives you the names of all of your tracks. You've got only 4 characters though, so it's abbreviated, and it also can show you pan position. It'll show you what plugins are installed. It'll actually display time code as well of the actual session in SMPTE timecode. So it's kind of nice. And then you've got your faders. So I just wanted to really show you quickly doing some real basic automation here, and just to kind of show you the playback scenario. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of these controllers. I mean, this is a good one. They're all fine. They're nice, but once you've kind of worked on a large console, you know, when you get your 10 fingers on there and you could feel it and smell it, and you know, consoles are big and heavy. I mean, this thing is, what's nice is that it's portable and light. So I don't feel like I'm in it when I'm doing it on here. That goes for anyone. That's not slamming this or anybody's. That's just me. Where they're really useful though is, you know, again, if you're just like, sometimes mouse movement is just irritating. This makes it kind of nice and easy. So here, what we might want to do, let's say that I'm just going to automate a couple faders simultaneously of this background mix. So I'm going to put these into write mode. Now, by the way, I can also, if I were to go up here and select the channels, and by the way, you can see I'm selecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can bank what's displayed on the display here, but right now I'm on these. So let's see if these buttons are assigned. Oh, they are. Awesome. So right here, this is latch, trim, touch, write, read. So I want to put these into write mode. So let's go over to track 3. Right. Track 4, right. By the way, I didn't set up any of these controllers. It did it automatically. Like the buttons were assigned automatically because the Mackie HUI has kind of a standard set, and I'm sure most of these buttons conform to a standard set of buttons. There are some that are not assigned. You can obviously select those accordingly, but pretty cool that it's just sort of plug and play. So now that all of these are in write mode, when I go into playback, anything that I do here will now be captured. So let's give it a shot. And in fact, why don't I just do the other? There's 2 more tracks of background vocals, so let's put those into write. All right. And over here, this is the master, my bust master of all of those. So, okay, so let's go ahead and do it. Let's start playback, and I'm just going to start moving stuff around and kind of reconfiguring how these sound. Here we go. Okay. So now if we take a look here, notice it goes to touch mode. That's the default. That's what it should do after you go into write. If we go ahead and wind back, let's go into our mixer here. All right, and scroll. Oh, whoops. There we go. Oh, see, the faders are moving. There we go. All right, and let's go into play. Now you should see all these things dancing around and moving based on what I just did. And yes, Brian, that is my voice. Okay, here we go. Edging up slightly there. Not as dramatic as I would have liked. Okay. Oh, thank you, Brian. So yeah, so that's it, right? Super simple. You know, and here actually I want to hear what that sounds like against the vocals. So let's see how that works. Let's play this back. Toot monster, the toot monster, yeah, toot monster. If you are what you eat, from your head down to your feet, and baby, that maybe why not even onions make me cry. And if you're gonna feed your face, you'd better take a minute and think about just what it is that you are putting in on like a toot monster. Yeah, cool. So really simple automation. You know, again, I think you get the idea here. If we were to take something, let me just go to something that's a little, here, maybe a little more obvious. Let me go to our drum tracks here, and I'm going to bank this over so I can see all of my drums now. And let's put this on the mixer, and in fact, here, where am I? Oh, I want to put these into write. Yeah, see, like this is cool. That was a lot faster. For me to click on all those and go to write, right there, that just saved me a lot of time. That's worth it right there. All right, so using the same section, again, I'm just gonna very quickly kind of move through these things so you kind of get the idea, but here we go. All right. Okay. Go back here. All right. play it back again. You should see these things start to... Zzz. Zzz. Why is it not moving? Did it not just record my automation? What just happened? I just did all that amazing automation for you? Oh, I didn't get to it yet. Oh my God. Okay, there we go. It's freaking out there. There we go. Zzz, zzz, magic. No hands, Mom. You know, flying faders have been around since the 80s. SSL consoles did this. So cool, right? By the way, in 2017, people still like to see the faders move. It's just cool. And this is where, as you saw here, if I look inside. So this is cool because once you do the fader automation, you still have complete editability of all of that motion. All right. So it's fully editable at all times. And by the way, if you're like in the cursor position, like right here. So do you see as I'm scrubbing, do you see the faders moving right there? All right. So if I were to take this hi-hat track, which is this one right here, watch this, and I raise this up. So I'm adjusting the keyframe, and you see it's actually adjusting the fader in real time. Like, that's just cool. I don't know that it's necessarily useful. I'm just showing you it's cool. No, but it does. It works, and it also allows you to just have real-time feedback of exactly what's happening. The other thing too is that, you know, when you have 100mm faders, it also gives you the idea of sort of how much you're pushing so that you kind of give yourself a little bit more headroom when you're doing your final mix, you know, for mastering. All right. All right. Oh, thanks, mathematics. That's awesome. Thank you. All right. Whoa, yeah. And it does, yes. Lots of features to clean stuff up, Warren. Adobe Cadabra, Evil Cerise, absolutely. So so that's kind of just a couple of, again, the new features in version 2018. We've got a couple more minutes here. One more thing. Now, this is not entirely new, but many of you probably haven't seen this. This speaks a little bit more to working with multi-channel audio workflows, but actually now that we have full support for ambisonic audio in Premiere Pro, actually this becomes pretty cool. So in fact, hold on, I'm going to open up one more file here. Because, now hold on, wait a minute. Is this NAB? This might take me a second to find this. Bear with me for 1 second. Because we have a whole series of options for how you can remaster and modify audio and audio channelization inside of Audition. So just bear with me for 1 second because I got to try and find these files. This may or may not happen right now. Hold on. I'll give myself 1 second to find them. I think I know where they are. I think they're here. Yes. Okay. So, labeling, channel labeling. Here we have a 4-channel ambisonic file. Now, this is all correct and proper, and Premiere Pro knows how to read this. Here we've got a multi-channel MXF file, just somewhere in here. Here we go. Which happens to be 8 channels of audio. Now, in the case of this one, they're all listed as mono. That's not correct. In fact, a lot of these are actually left-right stereo pairs. Or maybe this 8 channels is a 5.1 mix with 2 channels left meant to be blank. Or maybe this is a combination of different versions of, you know, multilingual dialogue plus music and effects. Very common for broadcast networks where you have an 8-channel MXF file, but everything is contained differently. So a couple of things that we can do now. First and foremost, in the editor view, you now have the ability And all you're doing, by the way, is adjusting metadata. So it's a non-destructive process to make the changes I'm going to show you here. But you can reassign the proper channel names if they're not assigned properly or in advance to multi-channel audio files. So here in this case, like I said, like this could be, actually maybe this is supposed to be left. Okay. And by the way, this is telling you that some file formats, the info might not be stored, or maybe it's only stored in a restricted way. So like some of them, yeah, you know, MP3s, it's not going to store that data. It doesn't, MP3s don't care about what that is. MXF files, linear PCM wave files, broadcast wave files, there are other file formats, they do. Sometimes it's contained in a sidecar, sometimes it's embedded directly in the file. But that's what that means. So here, again, maybe, oh, I'm back on the, am I on the right one here? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm still on ambisonics. Whoops. That's okay, we'll come back to that one. Let's go back to our 8-channel wave, this one, and let's go ahead and name these accordingly. So the first 6, again, are meant to be left, right, center, sub or LFE, left surround, right surround, and maybe 7 and 8 are meant to be left blank or as just mono. And what you can see is that it actually does that in the file. And then this asterisk is telling you that it's been modified, but again, it's not modifying or recompressing or doing anything to the audio stream. It's just updating the metadata, not unlike modifying metadata in Camera Raw for images. Same concept here. And just in terms of the ambisonic file, same thing. You know, a lot of these files, some systems might not understand this if these channels aren't tagged accordingly. Well, you'll see here in our list that we've got our ambisonics. So we could say this is, you know, meant to be W, X, Y, Z. We can assign those here like this. And when we take a look at that here in Audition, you can see that it's now done the proper channel naming. Sometimes you see this with 5.1 interleaved files where they're exported and for whatever reason, the playout system, it doesn't know what channels are what. Maybe it reverses the center in LFE because it's not using the Dolby standard. So here's where you can redefine and save those back to the file very easily. The other thing that you can do is you have now multiple ways to import and separate your files and channels based on the configuration. So let's say in the case of this, and this will take us to the end of the hour here, this MXF file, and in fact, let me go back to this for a second. That's okay. I'll leave these like this. Let's say that this is in fact a multi-channel, multilingual version of this See You Around video. Okay, so in fact we've got a left, right. We have channels 1 and 2 are stereo pairs, 3 and 4 are stereo pairs, 5 and 6 are stereo pairs, but 7 is Spanish dialogue, mono, and 8 is German dialogue, mono. All right? And maybe we want to do some reconfiguring or re-editing or something, remixing of those inside the multitrack here in Audition. So you can do that very easily. So let me show you here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a couple of tracks, and specifically I'm going to add them based on the configurations I just told you. So I'm going to add 3 stereo tracks, then I'm going to add 2 mono tracks, and you'll see why in just a second. So let's start here with our stereo track. Not yet, buddy, sorry. Okay, and what I can do is, if you take the audio clip and you drag it into the track itself, this will bring all 8 channels in all at once. But this isn't necessarily what you want. Sometimes you want the interleaved file to exist on one track. Generally, though, we want to split them out. So once again, we've got a lot of keyboard modifiers here. So if I hold down, let's see, what key is it? One of these not working for me? Let me try this again. So let's see. There we go. Okay. So if I hold down the Alt or Option key, this is going to bring these in to those tracks based on, actually, in this case, it's now using the channel names that I gave it. So it knows that 1 and 2 are a left-right pair. Center and sub for 5.1 are mono. And then left surround, right surround is a stereo pair. And then 7 and 8 are mono. It brought those in all as mono clips. So Alt-Option will do that. What if, however, you actually want everything separated based on the track layout? Okay, so we have a stereo track, stereo track, stereo track, mono, mono. So let's do that. So let's take this clip again, drag it into here. Now we're going to do Option and Command. And notice now it's following the actual track configurations here in the multi-track. What do I mean? I mean that I had a stereo track here. You can see it's left and right. Can you see that? So you can see the meters right here.
No, you do. So did you?
All right, so stereo.
Hi, yeah, hi.
All right, this one is stereo, and it made that a stereo track. That's good. We want that to be stereo.
Hi, yeah, hi.
All right, this next one here, also stereo. Again, we're pretending that this is, you know, some other element. In this case, it's actually ambience and background sound. And then we've got our Spanish dialogue in mono. You can see that here, single channel. All right, it's not actually Spanish dialogue, but you get the idea. And then, you know, the German dialogue also in mono. So, Option to bring in the clips either as all mono or based on however they're named, it'll bring them in accordingly. If you hold down Option or Alt and Command or Control, it will then import those files based on the track configuration in the multi-track. Whew. Man, that's wordy. Super nerdy, super powerful, lots of new keyboard modifiers in Audition. And friends, that is all the time we have. So thank you so much for joining me today. Again, you'll be able to watch the replay of this right here on the Creative Cloud YouTube channel. I'll be back next week on the Creative Cloud Facebook page at 9 a.m. Pacific time for part 2 of how to make good videos great with motion graphics templates featuring After Effects and Premiere Pro. And Tuesday through Thursday, you can find me on the Premiere Pro and After Effects Facebook pages showcasing new features in the latest releases of CC 2018. So thanks so much for everyone for tuning in today. One last question. Hip House Production, is the new version of Audition we can select all the mixer fader and move it all together, or do you still have to move one by one? Well, as you just saw, if you're using a controller like the one I have here, if you noticed before, I was moving multiple faders simultaneously, and if I'm automating that, yes, it will record the automation for multiple faders simultaneously. So yes, now, if you're doing it with a mouse, there's no way to gang faders, so you'd have to either send everything to a bus, right, and then have one fader control for everything, or use an external controller. But if you're using an external controller, any and all functions you can do them simultaneously. All right, everybody? Yeah, great last question. Thank you. Thank you, Hip House Production. Thanks, Warren. Juan Jose, Mathematics. Alan, I do use the Force. Sean, Brian, Ant, Evil Cerise, of course, Skyhawk, TV, Lino, Yuri, Jonathan, and anyone else that I'm missing right now. All right. Thank you so much, Magdalene. Thank you. And we'll see you guys again next time. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.